Today we'll discuss the characterization and of the ideal tragic hero and the essentials of the characterization of an ideal tragic hero. When we go through the poetics, we see in the second chapter that Aristotle, while examining poetic imitation, says that men whose actions and experiences poetry imitates may be either better or worse or the same as they are in actual life. The third variant he mentions and then ignores is wholly concerned with the and is mainly concerned with the other two, that is higher and lower than the actual life. The poet may present or represent men as heroic or exaggerate with their follies and weaknesses. He may idealize or he may caricature, and this is the difference between tragedy and comedy. Tragedy idealizes, imitates men as better, and comedy caricatures, that is, shows men that are worse or lower than they are actually in their lives. Tragedy idealizes and brings out the hidden possibilities embedded in men. The characters in a tragedy are real men and women, but they are of the better sort, and further, by judicious processes of selection and elimination, the reality is heightened, and good in them is made more prominent and impressive. It is still a reality, but the reality is idealized. In the same way, the poet has reality as his basis. He depicts real men and women, but he idealizes reality and so represent men finer and nobler than they actually are. Now, what are the essentials of characterization? The first one we can say is goodness. The characters portrayed must be good. A character is good if his words and actions reveals that his purpose is good. In ancient Greece, women were considered as inferior beings and slaves as worthless, but Aristotle says that when introduced in a tragedy, even women and slaves must be shown to have some good in them. Entirely wicked characters, even when assigned minor roles, are unfit for a tragedy. Wickedness may be introduced only when required by the necessities of the plot. Wickedness must be mixed up with some good, or as in actual life. In other words, Aristotle favors complex characters. Just as a successful painter makes his portrait more beautiful than the original and still retains the likeness to the original, in the same way, the poet must represent his characters better and more dignified and must preserve the likeness to the original. Aristotle has used the Greek word Christos for good and has given rise to a hot controversy. It has been variously interpreted by various critics. While some critics have interpreted the word in the sense of general moral quality revealed in action, more especially in the choices a character makes. In the Greek sense, the word goodness implies a number of virtues such as courage, magnificence, temperance, friendliness. In any case, goodness, a negative or cloistered virtue is not meant here, but a zealous and energetic goodness. Aristotle's good man is not just good unless he is desiring specific positive good ends and working towards their attainment. Then the second essential is appropriateness. The characters must be appropriate. That is, what does this mean? That they must be true to type or status. For example, a woman must be shown as womanly and not manly. A slave must be given a character which is appropriate to his status. Manliness would not be appropriate in a woman, and dignity and nobility in a slave. Aristotle's criterion of appropriateness has come in for a good deal of criticism. It is said that Aristotle lays down that the characters should be true to type, that they must have the characteristics peculiar to their age, profession, sex, or social rank and status. They must be true and appropriate representatives of the class or group to which they belong. They must have some generic qualities. They can also be individualized at the same time. Their individuality is guaranteed by the fact that tragedy represents not men but men in action. The actions of even the personages of the same type are bound to differ from situation to situation. It is action which is bound to reveal the individuality. Aristotle's insistence on appropriateness is a sure safeguard against that oddity and eccentricity that probing into the minds of the characters of many a modern novel which comes in the way of the development of a plot. The third essential quality is the likeness. The characters must have likeness, that is, what does this mean? They must be like ourselves or true to life. In other words, they must have the virtues and weaknesses, joys and sorrows, loves and hatreds, likes and dislikes of average human being. Such likeness is essential, for we can feel pity only for one who is like ourselves, and only his misfortunes can make us fear for ourselves. This in itself rules out perfectly good or utterly wicked and depraved characters. Such characters will not be like us, so will not be able to connect to them. They will be unreal and unconvincing. The characters must be of an intermediate sort, mixtures of good and evil, virtues and weaknesses. And the fourth essential is consistency. Aristotle says that the characters must be consistent. They must be true to their own natures, and their actions must be in character. Therefore, a rash, impulsive person should act rashly and impulsively throughout. There should be no sudden change in character. If the dramatist has to represent an inconsistent person, then he must be consistently inconsistent. Aristotle emphasizes the point further by saying that the action of a character must be the necessary and probable outcome of his nature. He should act as we may logically expect a person of his nature to act under the given circumstances, just as the incidents must be casually connected with each other. So, the various actions of a character must be the necessary and probable consequences of his character and the situation in which he is placed. They must be logically interlinked with his earlier actions and must not contradict the impression produced earlier. Thank you. We'll discuss the other characteristics of the ideal tragic hero in our next lecture. Thank you.